Hey folks, welcome to another edition of Lewiston the Way I See It. This one is titled Abuse of Power, specifically by at least one person on the Lewiston City Council. The events of last week were one afternoon, I got a call from the Lewiston Police Department because evidently the videos that I've been posting about the homeless and drug addict problem in Lewiston had struck a nerve, and they were calling to, I'm not sure what it was. It wasn't like they were telling me I was doing anything wrong. In fact, they said just the opposite. They were very pleasant and very professional. But the long and short of it was that what I was saying was bothering people. And when I pressed as to what I was saying, that was so bothersome, I wasn't able to get an answer on that. But then when I did ask, well, who am I bothering? They said it was a member of the city council. I didn't bother to ask who it was. The last thing I want to do is put the police department in a bad place. I probably already have by talking about this, and I regret that. But, it was a Lewiston city councilor that thought that they had the power to call the police and then have the police call me to essentially say, knock it off. Although the police didn't really say that, but you can understand how I might have reached that conclusion. And in fact, that was the real reason that the city councilor abused their power. But it doesn't stop there. I didn't think a whole lot of it. I went about my day, because somebody's got to work. And So I got home that night, and my wife says, we've got two notifications here. One from general assistance on one of the apartments that we have, that they were going to do an inspection there, which is fine. And then right on the heels of that, a notification from the Lewiston Fire Department that they were going to inspect one of my buildings. And again, anybody can inspect my buildings at any time, with warning, without warning. I don't care. I want my buildings to be safe, and I want to provide good, affordable housing, which I've done for 10 years. The whole general assistance thing is a long story, and we don't have time today to go through it all. Let's just say that it's the first time I've ever had a general assistance apartment inspected in my 10 years in Lewiston. So then, because again, I'm not as smart as these people that work for the city, but I did put together that in the space of like 24 hours, I now have two inspections called and a call from the police department about my YouTube videos. So that led me to the conclusion that somebody on the city council is just really sick of me. Hey, that's okay. I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is that they think they have the power to call in inspections and call in the police to speak to me about the opinions I have on the homeless crisis and drug addict crisis in Lewiston. I should add here real quickly that they are so obscenely arrogant, they didn't even try to make all this look like a coincidence. This is in your face. I'm large and in charge, and I'm going to show you. And they made an effort, which is really pretty disgusting if you ask me. But, I mean, ultimately, they really can't think that I'm going to stop talking about it. I mean, what idiot would think that they could pull this off and then I'm going to crawl into my safe space and cuddle up with my emotional support animal and say, oh my God, I am scared to death. Well, if they knew anything at all about me, they would realize that this would have the exact opposite effect of what they wanted. So we'll see what happens. I promise you that I'm not going to stop talking about this. The things that bother me are this. Not so much that one of these spineless pukes thinks they can pull this off, is that the rest of them don't stand up and say, wait a second, this is not what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be calling police on people that have every right to speak their mind just because we don't happen to agree with it. This person is still anonymous. I mean, and they'll probably stay anonymous, which I don't understand it. You see, I have a Y chromosome, so I don't understand this sort of reaction, this sort of way of going about things. If I have a problem with somebody, I am perfectly happy to sit down with them and talk with them. Reasonable people can disagree, but this person evidently is not secure enough in their position to even admit that they did it. Now, I will say this. When this all happened, I actually wrote an email and sent it to 350 of the most woke, evolved people in Lewiston. And that included all of the city councilors and a bunch of the people in power in Lewiston. Now, I only got 2 responses to that. One was from Councilor McCarthy, right? And I give him credit for at least being honest. He wrote back and said, and I don't have it right here to read it word for word, but he said, I've never seen any of your videos. And by the way, I didn't call the police. So good for him. He didn't call the police, and he has no interest in any of my videos, which is certainly his right. The other response that I got was from a well-known lawyer here in Lewiston that disagreed with everything I said in the letter and said that I was a snowflake because it bothered me that the city of Lewiston was doing this sort of stuff. If you had the ability to ask 100 people that actually knew me for some sort of a descriptor of my personality, I promise you that not one of them would say I was a snowflake. Now this guy, feels, that's a derogatory term, meaning, that essentially, now that just means he has no idea what he's talking about and took no time to talk about it, and as a matter of fact, has never spoken to me or clearly would not be willing to speak to me. And in some alternate universe where he did, I promise that he wouldn't call me a snowflake to my face. I'm going to actually post that email in the description there of this video, just so you can, if you're interested, and you probably aren't, but if you happen to be, it's a short email, right? And you can read it and you can understand what was sent and at least maybe wonder why there were only 2 responsives from 350 of the most evolved people in Lewiston. So I happen to know the answer to that question. It's because nobody wants to be canceled in Lewiston. And God forbid you step out of line, you go against the tribe, you will no longer be invited to, the parties and the all-important meetings. So I have some sympathy for people who think that way. I just don't happen to be one of them. Now, the one way that you know that you're right or know that you're onto something is when people refuse to talk to you. Okay? Now, you may say, well, look, Jay, you are an abrasive asshole. And, I'm sure that has been true from time to time. But I will say in my defense that I treat people exactly the way they treat me. You would be hard-pressed to find any of my many tenants, any of my vendors, any of my bankers that I deal with, my wife, my kids, my family, anyone that says that I treat them poorly. So if you want to make the argument that I'm just a douchebag and that's why the entire city of Lewiston refuses to speak to me, well, again, you're welcome to that. I would just say that I have, and I will always continue to treat people exactly the way they treat me. I'll just say in conclusion that I look forward to this Tuesday's City Council meeting, where I can ask the same question live and on public TV as to who is the fine, upstanding human that thought they had the power to call the police, to call me. Now, there's every likelihood that they won't allow me to speak, because again, that's the modus operandi of these incredible, brave humans that are on the city council. So we'll see what happens there. You may read about it in the newspaper. I'll file my complaint with the Attorney General for the state of Maine, which will do absolutely no good, but I'll get quite a chuckle out of doing that. And then lastly, I would just say, be on the lookout for the next video that details how the Lewiston Sun-Journal takes their marching orders from the city of Lewiston. Thank you for watching.